Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Sarah and this is I fell off the vlogging bandwagon November wrap up, and I recommend you get a drink. I'm going to try and go through these very quickly. Let's start this off. Some of these books I have already talked about in vlogs that are lit on the channel if you're interested. So I will run through the first batch of these very quickly. I can't speak well today. The first of these, and instead of digging them off my shelves, just gonna put the picture up here. I read Power Rangers Volume 4. I think technically I also read Volume 3 this month. I love Power Rangers graphic novels. They're fantastic. If you enjoy graphic novels, if you watched the Power Rangers as a kid, I recommend this series. This is a kind of divergent timeline take on the end of the original Mighty Morphin show that aired here in the States. I think it was the first ones that aired in the States. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But this is the kind of extension of that series, and it eventually ties in with all the others. I'm not that far yet. I'm still waiting on a Volume 5, and I'll be continuing. These were great. I definitely recommend them. I read the Britney Spears memoir, The Woman in Me, I think is what it's called. Again, this was really good. I really enjoyed this. Her voice was very genuine in this. I don't know if she had a ghostwriter. I assume she had someone helping her write this, but it really felt like she was telling her story, like it was her actually telling the story. And it really put into context a lot of things that happened as I was growing up, because I'm a few years younger than she is. So she was very much in the spotlight as I was growing up. She was part of my musical history growing up, if you will. And this kind of solidified the thoughts that I had, that she is a nice person who has been treated horribly, and people have been terrible to her, but she just loves music, which seems to be the case. I read Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Shauna Maguire. This comes out next month. I'm probably done with Wayward Children series books at this point. This is like the 9th one, and this is a direct follow-up to the last book in the series, which I, quite frankly, hated. This is fine. It's about Ancy. We go back to her world, and we briefly go to Stephanie's world, which is pictured on the cover. It's the dinosaur world. But for me, this series feels like we are spinning our wheels on side characters and side plots, when some of the stuff, if this were a series of larger novels, some of these things could be like a chapter's worth of information, but instead we're getting full novellas. We're paying very high prices for full novellas of things that ultimately don't seem to be panning out very much. So I think I'm done with this series. I enjoyed some of the really early books, and I loved Jack and Jill's story. Forged by Blood and Daughters of Izdihar, I had two very similar thoughts on, or I have one cohesive thought of, and that is these are books that I feel like were probably written for a YA audience and were not edited or pitched or sold to YA. They were instead seemingly sold to adult audiences. I did not like them. Their pacing and the character types and tropes felt very young, and it just did not work for me. Both of these are fantasies. Forged by Blood is, I believe, a Nigerian-inspired fantasy. I really liked some of the world-building ideas, and I loved the first initial chapter of this. Then it fell into a lot of familiar tropes. The chosen one girl who has no other personality besides rage, and her two love interests, one soft, one real dickhole, and then a forced marriage. Daughters of Izdihar was a little better. It was an Egyptian history inspired fantasy about two girls who are on opposite sides of one guy. One of them is of a lower class status than her love interest, we'll call him. The other is his arranged marriage wife, and they get caught they get caught with him between them. And then there is a tease, sort of, kind of twist almost, of one of the girls falling in love with another woman in the Daughters of Izdihar group, which is fighting for women's rights in this fantasy Egypt. There is magic, like Avatar the Airbender style elemental magic, but it's mainly a focus on those two girls. There's kind of very shallow world building after a point, and it just focuses entirely in on them, and it was just not for me. Not for me. The novella, I think the one novella I read, no, there's two. The novella I liked the most I read this month was Spirit of the Wood by Kristen Britton. This is a novella in the Green Rider series, and this follows a young Green Rider. I can't remember his name now. It's been like 3 weeks. Who is out on a job with a senior rider, and they stop an attack on a merchant, but in the process the senior rider is hurt quite badly, and he flees the bandits that are pursuing them into the wood, which is like it's a very big and magical place, and he ends up being able to hide in one of the rider what's the word I want, safe houses, and helps her heal. In the process, he learns how to use and master his own magic, which he has felt has been a curse to him his whole life, and he makes some friends. It ties into the main series, as the injured rider he's helping is a character in the main series, and I completely forgot who she was until the end of the book. And kudos to the author, and I said this in my vlog, I fell in love with these two characters in this novella. I loved them both by the end of the book, and I didn't realize who she was until the end. And I was like, oh yeah, I hadn't read Green Rider in like 10 years, but I remember when I read it, I liked that character then too, and she made me fall in love with her again 10 years later. I just thought that was well done. I read The Calamitous Bob by Alex Gilbert. I loved this. This was just a riot. This was so fun. This is about a woman who is taken from our world and put into another world when a rogue god decides he is tired of his world and his wife, and he switches places with her and takes her body. He gives her a new body, some new abilities, and drops her over in his world, which is heavily saturated in magic, and she has to survive. This starts out with her surviving through a desert ruined town. Town is not the word. What is the word I want? City. There's a large city she comes to. She is in the ruins of the throne room, which is important, and she has to find her way out of this ruined city empire and to civilization, and she makes friends along the way. It's so good. It's so funny. There are a few dated words and language points used, and like there's a few things she says that felt dated and not quite appropriate, but it was originally published in 2013 and it's indie, so I'm gonna give it grace and just kind of look over that. I've already run into that issue with the second book. Again, trying to look over it. It's a word here or there that I'm like, we don't really use that anymore, but it's fine. Loved this. The next indie book I read was Sister Samurai by Tatiana Obey, and I beseech you, read this book. It is a novella. It is incredible. I looked right over it when I was checking a second ago. This was a 5-star read for me. Absolutely amazing. This is about Sister Samurai. She goes into town one day to do her daily tasks, and she ends up having to stop a bunch of rogue miscreants. So good. So good. This deals with grief, survivor's guilt, postpartum feelings, and it made me cry. It was so incredible. I cannot recommend this enough. Please go read it. Please go read it. Murder at Spindle Manor is another indie that I loved, and this one is on the SPF B09 finalist list, and it is great. It's a closed circle mystery about a huntress who comes to Spindle Manor after a train of travelers who she's been tracking. One of them is a monster, and she has to figure out who, and it is so funny. This has a very dry humor to it, so if you don't like dry humor, if it doesn't work for you, this isn't going to be for you, but if you appreciate that, 100%, this is for you. So good. I really loved it. This was another 5-star read from this month. And Dragons at Deepwood Fen. This I read right after Murder at Spindle Manor. This was not a 5-star read for me. I think I gave this one a 2.5. I initially loved the setup premise of this. We have a world in a dragon rider world where people can bond with dragons, and there are 2 color sides of dragons, much like D&D with the metallic and the chromatic. In this case, I can't remember the words he used, but it was darker colors and the lighter colors. They don't get along, but there is also this political unrest happening between these 2 groups of people, the people native to this area and the empire that has come down and colonized it, basically. I loved the multiple point of view storytelling that we got. However, we focused in for longer chapters on the two most boring characters. Everyone else had fast-pacey chapters, which made them feel much more interesting, whereas anytime I would get to the two main characters chapters, I was just like, ugh. So this was fine. It was not my favorite. I have enjoyed this author's short work. This one just wasn't for me, which is sad because I love dragon books. If you like a slow political book with a kind of explosive ending, this might be for you, but it is slow and it is long, so keep that in mind. And there is a lot of point of views. I know some people don't like that. I tend to love that, but in this case, I just didn't work. And so the rest of these, my phone rang. The rest of these, I have not talked about in a vlog, so maybe I'll give you some more details. I finally read That One Night by Emily Rath. This is the prequel novella to Pucking Around, which is the humongous hockey romance that took TikTok by storm. And I've had the book, the big book, and this one on my TBR for months. Finally read this, and I was very disappointed. I'm gonna be honest with you. This wasn't for me. It wasn't the writing style, but this is a one-night stand turned like weekend, I think, fling, and then these two characters will meet again in the full-length novel. All this was a bunch of sex, and like, I love romance novels, but not for that. I tend to skim those things, so for me, this felt like a lot of skimming. I would pick through the dialogue to find the interesting points, but I didn't feel the chemistry. I didn't understand why these characters were, the first night they were together, being like, we are two parts of one whole. The synchronicity of us meeting, which, by the way, I hate that word. Don't use that word. I hate that word. The synchronicity of us meeting is fate. And I'm just like, y'all actually, I don't even think know each other's names. Like, there was a no name rule. Am I remembering that right? I didn't like it. I gave it like a 2-star. Some of my friends are reading the full-length novel this month, so I'm just gonna wait to see what they think. Because now I'm put off. And everyone says this is necessary. Moving on. I didn't like it. I read Grievar's Blood by Alexander Darwin, and let me tell you, he wins the award this year for most improved. I read Combat Codes a few months back when it first came out, and I was mid on it. You know, I absolutely adore the idea. It is a fantasy sci-fi sort of inspired world where martial arts, specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is a huge feature. You have different classes of people, sub-races of humans who use the martial arts, the jiu-jitsu, to solve all disputes, right? You have a whole class of people, race of people, I guess, they're genetically different. A whole race of people who do nothing but fight to solve everyone's disputes, the Grievers. And the first book was just mid for me. I didn't like one of the characters. He felt too far up his own ass to see what was needed. He was very, this is wrong and this is right. And he was wrong. And the other character, it felt like it kind of slogged through his portions in the school. This one was so much better. We got another point of view character. This one also fixed one of the big problems I had with the first one was there was almost zero female characters in that book. But even though the story told you, oh, everyone in this society fights, even the women, and they're just as important as the men, and then they were never mentioned. There was one female character who was like a side character in the last like half, and that was it. Not even like in the world building were female people mentioned. It was just, I had problems with the first book, but this one fixed it. This one fixed it is what I'm trying to say. Our new point of view character is Soul, and this jumps heads, so we get a faster pace, so we see more of the world. We understand this dynamic between the Grievers and all the other ones, and like, so good. I actually am buying this, or I'm asking for this for my Christmas present, these two books, because I loved the second one so much. I cannot wait for the third one. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. And also the character I hated in book one, I actually loved where Alexander Darwin took him in this book. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Thank you. This was great. I really loved it. So when this comes out, it came out It came out today. This is out now. Go through the combat codes and pick this one up. It's great. It's great. It's fantastic. I then read, what is that? I don't remember that. I have the title written down but no author, which makes me confused. Oh, I read Madman by Onley James. This is the 5th Necessary Evils book, and this is the 2nd Twins book. So this is Avi and Felix. I adore Felix and Avi. They are so sweet. This book weirdly focused a little bit more on the characters and their inner monologues, their inner thought processes than the mysteries, which I really love the mysteries in this series. So it wasn't as strong plot-wise for me, but character-wise, at this point, I think I am fully committed to the Mulvaneys. I absolutely love them. I don't see myself ever giving these books below a 4-star at this point, unless Onley does something completely off the wall that I hate. This was great. If you have started the series, I actually recommend, even if you don't like the first book, to keep going. For me, there was a huge jump between book 1 and 2 in quality and storytelling style, so keep that in mind. This is fun. It's fantastic. I loved it. And I believe... Oh, nope, I'm sorry. I was going to say I have one more. I have 2 more. I read an arc of River of Golden Bones. I do not remember the author on this one. I think this is a debut. I don't have it written down here either. And this is an arc that I believe is out already as well. This was another fantasy romance that I found like mid. A lot of people online really like it. One of the big things I'll give it kudos for, with a caveat, is that this does an interesting exploration of gender and gender identity by the main character. They have to learn who they are. They are forced out of a very isolated situation into the broader world and are sent on, not sent, but go on a quest eventually to save their sister and their kingdom. And along the way, they branch out and meet humanity. In this world, the werewolves are the ruling race, subrace? Race? It's not clear. They're the ruling peoples. Humans are below them and they take care of the humans. There's a love triangle, of course. This has fated mates and, like I said, the exploration of gender on the part of the main character. I appreciated that. However, my biggest complaint was that in the end of the book, that was used by the villain against the character as a haha gotcha moment. You're disgusting and I hate you because of this. And that wasn't necessary. I really hated that. That was not cool. Just not cool. Besides that, it was fine. It was fine. It's fine. I don't know. I think I gave this a 3 or a 2.5, 2.75. If you're interested in it, maybe pick it up. If you're not, yeah, you can skip it. It's not a have to read situation. And the final book that I read was, here it is, Bookshops Bonedust by Travis Baldree. This was another 5-star read. Another 5-star read for Travis Baldree, and the final read of the month for me. I know a lot of people have not enjoyed this one because they know what happens after this book. They know that Viv is fine. There's no stakes. For me, the stakes weren't about Viv. The stakes were about the bookshop. It was about the people around her. And I wasn't here for the stakes. This is a cozy fantasy. I'm here for the feels and the vibes. And it delivered for me, and I loved it. It's about Viv early in her career. This is the predecessor to Legends and Lasses. In fact, I think this is when she is first hired by a mercenary group. She gets her first major injury and she is holed up in a little dock town. While she is there, it's in her leg, so she can't move much. She ends up visiting this bookshop next to the inn where she is staying, and she discovers, 1, her love for reading, and 2, her first love, and she finds a friend in Fern. Her first love is another woman in the town, not Fern. That sounded strange. It wasn't. She helps Fern with the bookshop. She makes friends with a little owlet. So cute. I love this little guy. It's so cute. I think his name was Pot Roast. That's great. My favorite character, I'm not going to spoil, but it is where the title Bonedust comes from. This was so good. Fern is a potty mouth, and I tell you what, I can relate to one. I am potty mouth. Much to the chagrin of my parents, I cuss like a sailor, and Fern also cussed like a sailor. Me and you, girl. We good. So this is fantastic. Don't go in expecting high stakes. It's cozy. It's about the vibes. It's about the fun. I love reading about someone learning to love reading. This was 5 for me. I need Mr. Baldry to write another book. It'd be great, actually, if he would write the book he talks about in his epilogue. I would 1000% read that. I would read his grocery list at this point. He's on his way to becoming an all-time favorite author if his next book is another 5-star. We'll see. That's it for this month. I did this in pretty good time. 24 minutes. We'll see what it is when I edit it down. But that's it for November. It's done, dusted. Looking forward to December and the end of the year. It's my favorite time of the year because it means new spreadsheets, new journals, all that stuff. Let me know what you guys have read down below. Do you have any thoughts and opinions? And I will talk to you guys there. I'll see you in another video soon. Thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.